I brought with me today a book that is available to children of all ages in the school's library. This book is filled with overt sexual acts, violence. It celebrates mass killings, and it's being used to indoctrinate our children. I'm going to read you some passages from this book, and you tell me whether or not this book is appropriate for your children. The Lord tried to kill Moses, but Zipporah used a sharpened stone and cut off their son's foreskin and rubbed the bloody ring on Moses' feet, saying, "You are now my bridegroom." This made the Lord leave Moses alone. If a slave owner beats a slave, male or female, with a stick so severely that the slave dies immediately, the slave owner should be punished. However, if the slave survives a day or two, he should get back to work. The slave is the owner's property. The Lord regretted ever creating human beings, and he was sad. So the Lord said, "I will wipe all the human race off the face of the earth. And while I'm at it, I'll kill the livestock and the crawling things too. I'll even kill all the birds in the sky. I wish I'd never created any of them in the first place." Now, do you think a child should be reading this book full of sexual violence and genocide? Books don't belong here at all. Ban this book, and let's focus on science, math, and raising administrators' pay. Thank you.
And
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so welcome back to the show. We are your hosts. I'm Jeremy. That's Mike. Welcome back. We got a good show lined up for you. Oh man, this is gonna be fun. That was comedian Walter Masterson doing an epic level trolling of Moms for Liberty. I just had to throw that clip in there.
I got a chance of seeing him in action. He actually showed up at one of our local school boards, and I didn't even realize what was happening. And I was like, "What is this guy?" And then I realized, and he's hilarious.
Oh my God, yes. So topic of discussion tonight is one that we've had quite often. Unfortunately, this is one of the worst groups, I think, in the country, the most diabolical, the most evil of all the groups that are trying to push this fascist, this Christo-fascist agenda that they're trying to put, and they're the ones that target the kids. They're the ones that are going after our schools. Yeah, right. They're the ones that are really, they're banning books about being black. They're banning books where the characters' parents have two dads. They're, they're trying to, but they don't want to ban the Bible. I always found that kind of ironic. So,
well, I guess you could say today's show is hypocrisy and the violence that comes from it.
Right. So we definitely wanted to point out the hypocrisy within this entire Moms for Liberty movement and just point out exactly how dangerous they are. But the recent scandals, maybe they've lost a little bit of influence. They've fractured a little bit, but I don't think they've gone away or are going away anytime soon. We'll probably have to deal with them for a while.
Ironically, they'll evolve.
Or devolve like everybody else. But so we have two people that have dealt directly with Moms for Liberty on the show tonight. And I'm super excited to be able to bring both of them together. They've never met each other before until tonight. Now we do have back on the show Liz Mkhitaryan, the founder of Stop Moms for Liberty. You've had her on the show a couple times now. And we are glad to have her back. Now she is going to be off camera because poor dear just had knee surgery, but she's still willing to come on the show as long as she's off camera, which I was perfectly fine with. Welcome back to the show, Liz. How are you?
hey guys, how you doing? I'm great. How are you?
Good. Hope you're feeling good.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Slow but sure. Yep.
Always
Yes,
feeling
nice
ready
to podcasting.
always feeling ready to take on the fascism though.
This is true. So I said, I may not look very good because of surgery, but I can still talk.
That's it. That's all we need.
Exactly. That's all we're trying to do is we're trying to be, our goal, I think, is to be louder than them. But the nice thing about what we do is we really do have the truth on our side. We don't need to create propaganda or false narratives in order to get our point across. We can literally use their own words against them as long as we get enough people attention.
Yeah.
Which I think is our overall goal between now and election time. So Liz, I'm so happy you're back on. And I like 1 minute you're like, yeah, I'm on vacation. I'm like, oh, cool. And the next minute you're like, I'm having knee surgery. I'm like, God, man, that escalated quickly. Like, what happened?
I assume someone from Moms for Liberty put a hit out on you, and that's not even
no.
That funny. That's not even that funny because you've experienced some sketchy things.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully they don't go after the other knee.
Oh God.
Right.
No. I've had issues for years and years, and finally I had the replacement done of one of my knees. So
my mom literally just had that.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, I broke my ankle a couple of years ago before I started doing all of this. And yeah, I remember the recovery. The recovery is hell, especially like shortly after surgery. No matter what you do, it's just not being able to use one of your legs sucks.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I was out of commission for like 4 months. I literally broke it into like an L shape. It was awful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good time.
So, but throughout the show, though, we definitely want you to share some like recent experiences that you've had with. You know, obviously they're probably not nice stories because I'm sure you've been experiencing hell with the people that you've been dealing with. We do want to go over the increased amount in violence that is breaking out at freaking school board meetings. Like, what is going on in America? Well, that is something that we have to worry about. Parents can't even control themselves now. Like, my kids are grown, and I feel fortunate, I guess. At the same time, I don't, because I'm good at arguing. You know what I mean? But I would go nuts, and we're gonna have somebody come in that is a parent that's dealing with Moms for Liberty on here. So let me bring him in here in a second. I actually want to play the video before we bring him in. A lot of you guys might know him. We call him the TikTok dad. On TikTok, it's at BEEZAY22, BEEZAY22. So let me play the video first, and then we'll go ahead and bring Cody in. All right, and we'll get the show on the road.
Let's do it.
Because no matter how hard you try to implement these discriminatory policies in the right way, you are never going to find a right way to do the wrong thing. And Governor Youngkin's policies are wrong. One of the ways you could tell is because you have speakers from groups like Moms for Liberty here to support them. And I'll be real simple in case you aren't paying attention. They're not the good guys. How can you tell? I can help. The good guys don't get declared extremist groups by human rights organizations. Never in history have the good guys been the ones trying to ban books. Never in history have the good guys been a segregationist group pushing to legislate identity. Never in history have the good guys been closely connected with and supported by hate groups like the Proud Boys. And the good guys don't put Hitler quotes for inspiration on the front of their newsletters. Newsflash, they're the bad guys. They're the bad guys here supporting bad policy. And if you support the same bad policy, guess what? You're one of the bad guys too.
That's what I'm talking about. I welcome to the show, Cody.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my God. Yeah, I first saw this video. How old is that video? Do you even remember?
October?
Oh,
well,
really?
That was about. Oh, okay. So it was right about when we started the show. I saw that video.
I swear it was like
gotta get him on the show.
Maybe September, but I want to say it was just a few months ago, that video.
Oh, okay. So Liz, I remember Liz and me talking about it. We're like, we got to get this guy. And I was like, I sent you a message on TikTok. You're like, hell yeah, dude. I'm like, oh man, this is so cool.
How many people that were there in attendance were clutching their pearls? Am I being called a bad guy?
You know, there's like that one specifically, there was probably like a whole side of the room that very much were uncomfortable, and then a spattering of people maybe on the other side of the room that were trying not to laugh. I think there's actually, if you go to the school board meeting, I think you can see a lady behind me as I'm speaking kind of start to crack up a little bit.
Because it's so obvious, right? Like, I feel like what you said is so clear and practiced, but it's also so obvious to, I guess, us at least. But
well, I mean, that's so hard, and you see it in so many places. You see it with, you know, groups like Mom for Liberty. You see it with Trump, right? Yep. These things that are just glaringly obvious, but are.
Sorry. Go ahead, keep talking.
Glaringly obviously, but willfully, it seems overlooked.
Yeah.
Because some other part of it fits a specific agenda that they really want to happen. It's baffling and infuriating often to me to be explaining things that are.
Yeah. What groups are you currently working with?
So groups go ahead.
How old are your kids, first of all?
So my oldest is grown. They're 24, right. And I have 2 grandchildren, 6 and right about to be 5 here pretty soon.
You're still fighting for them too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then I have 2 at home. you know, my daughter who's trans, she's 13, and then my youngest, my son's 11. And so yeah, I'm fighting for 2 generations of my family.
And you and Liz have never met before until today, so I'm actually glad to bring you guys together, and I hope you guys can do some work together in the future. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, we've spoken, messaging, and things of that nature online.
Oh, good.
But
good.
this is nice that we're semi face to face, because you don't actually have my face. But
well, yeah,
this is the best I can do tonight.
Stream to stream.
That's all we need. That's all we need. Don't mind the camera changes. Don't mind the camera changes, Cody. That's just me clicking around in the background.
No,
sorry
no
to throw you off there for a second. I should have went over that before the show, but we started talking too much. So what are you experiencing locally, like with Moms for Liberty and any other group, I guess?
So what I will say with that group specifically, I have not seen them or had the person from them talk at the school board meeting since.
Nice.
That seemed to have been the end of their presence at Virginia Beach school board meetings. We still have
so you're saying you're effective, is what you're saying.
Yeah, Liz, you really got to put them on a tour, just going to different school boards and just scaring them away. Maybe that's what we need.
But see, the reason I wanted to have you on the show, and the whole reason I wanted to have you on the show, because I think fathers are an underrepresented part of this fight against fascism in America. And to me, you just happen to be the guy that I see as, you're the dad that's kind of like breaking the mold. Like, look, I'm not dealing with this anymore. We're not just dads in the background, and you know what I mean? We're active in our kids' lives and we care. And both of my kids, I didn't, because both of my kids are gay, but they're out of school now and they really had to deal with that. Like, I had to deal with my daughter. She was born deaf. So I had to deal with trying to get services for her in a rural area where I live, which is a bitch. So I had to fight for stuff like that, but I had never had to deal with the mess that these people are bringing on to the entire country.
That speaks volumes. You said growing up or being in a rural area and having 2 gay kids and you didn't have to deal with this shit. So there was a point where maybe we were headed in the right track, that wasn't something that you had to deal with.
Now we've talked about it, and listen, you know this, but I mean, we've always talked about how the rise in hate groups since 2016. I think it's over 300 additional hate and extremist or anti-government groups. You know what I mean? Like this, I don't understand what's going on. Like QAnon has been labeled a domestic terrorist threat back in 2018. We got Donald Trump reposting QAnon memes on his platform. And we have groups like Moms for Liberty now that are specifically designed and paid to target children. That's what I think makes them the most evil group that we are currently facing. And the biggest threat, because they're attacking our future generations, our future leaders.
Well, that's the whole point of public education. I mean, Cody, you wouldn't be going down there fighting for these things. Obviously, you care about your own kids and your grandkids, but obviously you care about all kids. And, when you attack public education, which is the only way a society has to perpetuate itself and evolve, is a robust education that's inclusive and teaches how to be a good citizen, a good person, and move forward. So something you're seeing looks like that's putting that at risk, whether it's a Moms for Liberty, whether it's just people that are disinformed, not just misinformed, showing up talking about CRT or groomers or drag story hour. I mean, at what point were you like, no, I got to say something. This is absolutely
this is why this is why to me the entire movement is bullshit. Because when my kids were born, I made a decision the moment they were born, even before they were born, that I was going to love them the best I can, no matter what. I don't understand. You can't predict what your kid is going to be, whether your kid's gay or trans. This is not your choice. Whether you take the books are not causing kids to be gay or trans. It's not how it works.
It's in the food. It's in the cupcakes. That's
right. Yeah, it's in the hormones and the milk.
It's making the frogs gay.
It's in the vaccine.
For
the gay frogs.
Oh my God.
No, I mean,
stuff we are dealing with these days.
What made me decide I had to stand up and talk about it. First of all, I'd moved to Virginia back in 2020. I used to live in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And then there was COVID and job insecurity, very high rent. Moved the family down to where I was originally born, down in Southern California, and kind of oversaw a camp that had been shut down. Then the world lit on fire.
Yep.
And we had to evacuate for a fire. It burned up to within a mile of our home. We had to evacuate for over a month. And so I took the family, and I had a little bit of money still tucked away. And we went on a road trip. Didn't want to sit down there. And this was before my daughter had come out or anything like that. And we road tripped to Virginia because I have family out here in Virginia. And my grandmother, she has breast cancer, and it was a chance for us to see her and hang out with cousins and everything, and just not focus on the fire burning all around our home. Well, my wife enjoyed the green and all of that. She didn't want to go back to California, not after the fire, especially where we were living. We were living like a mountain up in the wilderness. So roads got shut down for weeks at a time afterwards. It was bad.
That's crazy.
And so she asked me if I would try and find a job in Virginia and move us to Virginia and keep the wife happy.
I live in Northern Virginia. It's a nice,
happy life.
Nice area.
Yep. Happy wife, happy life. So we moved to Virginia and we ended up moving to rural Virginia because I enjoy a little bit of country. I've lived kind of all over 12 states. I grew up just, lived in Japan for a couple years, military brat, just kind of.
Yes. Okay. Me too.
And so we were living in a small town, 1,400 people, real rural, right by Liberty University.
Oh boy.
Right. Wow. Drove by it every day on my way to work and back.
Wow.
And it was okay. I was working at assisted living home in the middle of COVID. Assisted living and memory care. Went through the whole worst of COVID there. I took the job, and 2 weeks later they had their first COVID outbreak, which didn't exist.
Yeah.
And every manager at work except for me got COVID.
Wow.
And so I was there almost by myself, brand new, trying to deal with COVID. We had 99 people at the beginning of the outbreak. We had 66 at the end.
Wow.
That's insane.
I think COVID changed everything, because I think COVID made people go online that probably typically didn't go online before. You understand what I mean?
True.
They didn't know where the hell they're getting their information, and they just follow that rabbit hole a little too deep. Because we've realized on the show, and we've said it so many times, that we cannot reason with the people of MAGA anymore, Trump supporters. They're gone. Okay, we're going to have to deal with them.
But I had a whole incident at Home Depot when that happened, right? Because I'm a maintenance supervisor.
Yeah.
And so I'm stopping by Home Depot to get things I need to keep the building running.
Yeah.
And I'm in there, and all of these people aren't wearing masks.
Wow. These guys.
And so I kind of say something to the manager. I'm like, hey, are you okay with these people just not wearing masks? Is that just something you're okay with? You're not going to say anything, or we're just going to let that happen? And he's like, well, we're really not going to say anything. It's really not the policy. And some other person who wasn't wearing a mask kind of stopped.
For crying out loud.
To kind of listen.
Freedom.
And so I said, oh, okay. So if that's the case, I actually work down the street at the assisted living community. We're in the middle of a COVID outbreak where people are dying every day. I've spent my day around people that have COVID, cleaning up their feces and everything. Is it cool if I just take my mask off right here? I have a little bit of a cough coming on, but I'm sure that's not what it is. You should have seen how big their eyes got.
That's brilliant. but you know what? That's the essence of, and I'm going to say this word, or these people, the absolute, almost malignant selfishness. They only think about themselves. They're incapable of thinking. It's an extreme tribalism, which, let's face it, is what's being fostered in them, right? It's an us and them. Keep your family, your people small. Keep your identity small. Keep your community small, and fight for it. And don't let anyone in, and don't help anyone, because that's what they are fighting for.
Yep.
Very much so. I mean, and so anyway, we're living there in rural Virginia, and my daughter comes out over the summer. Very first thing we do is look at schools. That's where my children spend the most of their day.
Yeah.
And so the very first thing we do is look at, what did the school policy say? We know that the recent governor had outlined some policies that would be positive towards that. And sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
When we did, we looked up where we were at, and the first thing that popped up is how our school had completely rejected those policies, the positive ones.
Oh, wow.
And so the very next thing I did was go into Google, where are the best places in Virginia? Because my oldest had moved out here from Idaho to come be with us and bring our grandchildren close to us and everything. So we weren't going to move across the country. We'd already just moved again.
You brought the clan together.
And so, where are the best places in Virginia that are close for LGBTQ families? Richmond came up, Alexandria came up, and Virginia Beach, the Hampton Roads area came up. And so I looked at their schools. And
that's, you shouldn't have to do that, is the point.
No,
that's the whole point.
Do that in our country, period.
No,
but it's the first thing I did, was knowing, especially the political climate and what we'd seen in the news and everything like that. The very first thing I did was, where's the best place for my kids to be?
Right.
And so I found those 3 areas, and I started looking for jobs in them. And this is where I found one. Nice. And so we did all the thing, got the job, moved out here. And the same month that we moved here, I want to say like maybe 10 days before I started my job out here, Governor Youngkin released his new model school policies that forced outed, trans children, that just targeted our trans kids. And at this point, I've moved my family, 3 big moves. Over the course of a couple years. I have no more savings or resources or anything. To me, it wasn't even really much of a decision.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you supposed to do?
Now that you're here,
what are you supposed to do? So I
and
showed
you're under
up.
attack. You got.
But see, I'm glad people like you are speaking out, and I'm actually glad we hooked up with Liz way back when, so we're able to actually participate and kind of shed the light on what's going on behind the scenes, like what parents are actually going through. Because
that story is not uncommon.
Like you said, the only reason you exist is because Moms for Liberty exists. Like, we wouldn't even have to be doing this right now if these groups weren't targeting children. But people like us have to speak out, whether we're parents or not, just because I'm tired of the hate in this country, the nonsense, over nothing. Like, Twitter is a horrible place.
But that's what they exist
place for when it comes to this stuff. You know what I mean? The transphobia, the xenophobia, the racism, the blatant racism from people like Charlie Kirk. Drives me absolutely up the wall. Like, these people go out of their way to hate other people just because they freaking exist.
Well, that's what fuels
what are
them.
they supposed to do?
They want conformity, right? I mean,
yes.
They want an extreme version of conformity that allows them to ignore whatever impulses are in their mind. Because let's face it, everyone that's advocating against LGBT community that much might actually want to do some more research for their own benefit, but you can't admit that. So it's just, Jeremy, you said something about dads and how they're underrepresented as far as the fight for kids.
Right.
That's intentional, because these groups like Moms for Liberty, they come out of the woodworks to pretend they're protecting kids, right? That's what moms do. Dads don't raise kids. That's again, see where I'm going? That's the whole, their vision is.
That's their mentality.
We're here to deal with the kids. We're going to go deal with the men's stuff. Well, you're not going to get dads for liberty because they don't believe that that's something dads should do. They want the sympathy of the mother and, oh, the sweet mom. They're trying to play on their own stereotypes, their own vision for this country. And that's what scares me the most, right? They're the ones grooming. They're the ones that force dads and moms and people who don't have kids to go to meetings, to go to the school boards where they don't have kids and be like, yo, you're attacking my neighbor's kids. You're attacking just in general. Why are you doing this? What do you get out of it? And what they get out of it is conformity and power, and they could just be happy in their own little world. And it scares the hell out of them.
Now, Liz, let me ask you a question. Are you there? All right. Yeah, she's there. Yeah. I'm sorry. She went silent for a second there. Now, you said you've experienced some things recently that you wanted to discuss on here. Like, what are some of the things that you've been going through recently with Moms for Liberty?
Well, I have a harasser who is from the next county over from me, who actually, the last time I was on your show, I did have my face up during that interview, and she screenshot this little piece of me like wiping underneath my nose.
Cocaine.
She went after this whole thing about Liz is picking her boogers, and I mean, you want to say, what are you, 12 years?
You gotta be kidding me.
This is a grown woman. And she then since has come after my appearance. I went to their school board meeting because I wanted to see what was going on in this county next to ours.
You're my favorite.
Wow.
And and she had a friend there that took a photograph of me, and then they decided that they would do a wardrobe check on me and give me makeup tips and suggest that I get a new hairdo. So long story short,
like third graders is basically what they're doing. You're saying
pretty much, yeah.
But like in a worse way, like this stuff is getting out of hand.
Well, and they can't attack what I'm saying because, you know, as we've talked about, I only speak truth. I don't make things up. Yep, and I don't exaggerate. I realize the predicament that we are in public education. And because I'm speaking that truth, they come after me as an individual instead. Kind of the next result, because I'm sure my troll will be watching this video from tonight as well.
Hi, troll.
Hi, troll. How you doing?
Welcome to the show.
She might not realize how old I am, but I am considered an elderly person. And so this is elder abuse. This is elder abuse, and I plan on pursuing that. Yeah. As soon as I can walk, and get out my door.
So see, our show's already helping the cause. Getting rid of one of them is perfect.
No, but it's funny because again, they're the groomers, they're the bullies, they're the ones that treat their neighbors poorly, they're the ones that are trying to take rights away, they're the ones that are trying to force ideologies down everyone's throat.
Right. All the things they say that they're against, that they say that we're doing, are actually the things that they are doing.
I mean, it's every day. Every day a Republican is arrested for pedophilia or underage girl picture. Every freaking day. And I'm still waiting for a drag queen to be on that list.
Right. Yeah. And we'll show like the people that they're targeting.
That's it, Cody. That's, man. Yeah. It's almost like psychology is a real thing, and we should listen to people.
Well, and it's an interesting phenomenon. We talk about, you know, how did we get to this point? And absolutely, the pandemic is what put us where we are, because the pandemic kind of flipped the whole world on its ear. Yep. And during the pandemic, we had some leaders who did not pull us together as a society. Instead, they chose to stand up for your individual rights and fight for yourself, and that was their
rugged
kind of
individualism.
Rhetoric. Yeah, and it's, you know, protect yourselves. But you know, like Cody's saying, his experience in the rehab home, and then I'm affiliated with a hospital here locally. People were dying. And it was not a big deal to ask someone to put on a mask. Really, and yet they, you know, went off the rails with this whole mask thing.
They described they described the hospitals in New York as post-apocalyptic. You know what I mean?
It's called
it was.
Hospital taking precautions.
Well, and I can tell you, I was just blown away by the fact that our local hospital had to have refrigerator trucks
Yep.
to
Yeah.
store the bodies because the funeral homes could not bury
Yep.
these people fast enough. That's how much of a pandemic disaster we were in. And we had this other side of things, I'll call it, just fueling all this stuff about, oh, don't listen to the government and don't listen to the physicians and don't
Use
listen to the
bleach.
hospital people. Who are you going to listen to? If you don't, agree with every little thing, that's fine. But to, condemn like the entire CDC or the whole World Health
Condemn medical
Organization.
science. That's what
It's
they're
like,
doing.
Yeah. And it's
Should we go to
I
witch
think
doctors?
that fear was, in play. And then it was this constant, you are the real patriots. You are the people that are standing up for America. You are the ones that are trying to fight for freedoms. When in fact, the folks that they actually put into offices give us less freedoms, but that's a whole nother show, I think. And so
actually,
you had this climate of fear. And there's also something to be said for this whole far-right extremist movement is one of belonging.
Oh, yeah.
And it gives people something to belong to. A lot of people, jokingly say, oh, it's the mean girl club or something like that, but it's a sense of belonging. They could go online during the pandemic and they could chat with people that didn't disagree with anything that they had to say. So that was like their new tribe.
Reinforce their ignorance.
Yep.
So let me
use tribalism.
So that's very cultish.
Play this.
You would, I mean, maybe I might use that.
Hello. Hey, let me play this video.
Oh, did it happen again?
No, yeah. All right, let me play this. This is not a big deal. It happens. But let me play this video. Like, these are the people they're targeting. And I mean, yes, this is kind of like a goof, but at the same time, not really, because, we
want education, not indoctrination for our children. I don't believe in sexualizing children. I do not believe that other people have the right to decide what is sexually appropriate to teach other children.
There are many schools that have books with inappropriate pictures depicted in them that we would like to see not banned, but removed.
Like gay dads? What? There's no picture in a school library of like graphic pornographic penetration. So the only picture they're talking about is some little kid drawn in crayon hugging their two dads. That's it. That's the picture. That's so offensive.
Mike, I have to disagree just a little bit because a lot of their push
Liz always keeps me honest.
I know, right?
No, do it.
Discussion anyway. A lot of their push has been about the book Genderqueer, and it is very graphic.
Okay.
It's a graphic novel, and our contention at Stop Moms for Liberty has always been, we are not out to defend any particular books. That's not what our mission is. Our mission is that Susie doesn't get to decide for everyone. That Cody can't be the only voice that's listened to. We need to have a democratic approach at everything. And when it comes to books, we have a system in place. And so I'd be the first one on the front lines to say, yep, that's not appropriate. Let's not have it in this, lower elementary class or whatever.
Sure. There's age appropriateness. That's reasonable.
Yeah. So their point in trying to address some concerns that they might have, I'm not going to say that they don't have some valid concerns, but what's happened is they took this attack mode. And it's not that, they have a book that they think, really needs to be looked at. It's you are distributing pornography.
Yes.
And that's the piece that will fail. And it is failing because it's just not right. They go after librarians, they go after teachers, they go after administrators. And that's not how you actually create change for the better by attacking. And that's their whole mode is attack mode.
You said it earlier, it is fear-based because when you take people that are just learning about this for the first time and it's, shocking, that's it. They don't learn anymore. That's what they heard. That's what they think is happening. And now they're angry. So when they're trying to, you're right. It's not about a specific book. If you have a problem with a book, bring it up during the review process, which already exists. Okay. And then express your concerns there. But they're taking it to the next level. Like you said, it's not this book that's indoctrinating them. It's you. That's why the book is in there. Well, what's the mechanism that leads to that? Because if their leaders, if their people that were elected were like, look, we agree that there might be some objectionable material, but we're not going to just lump everyone into a category. blah, blah, blah. But they don't do that because their politicians use that fear as political capital.
But they're calling the cops on librarians. You know what I mean? That's the day we're living in. Like if that, and there was one lady that was with the Moms for Liberty group, had their kid go into a library, check out an age-appropriate book, but I guess it was like she was 17 years old. They intentionally targeted this book. Then they went to the cops. The cops were like, "What the hell do we want to do with this?"
Jeremy, it's even worse than that. They got somebody else's child to go and check out that book.
Oh, so you're saying, wait a minute. So by their own definition, by their own definition, they're now trying to get someone else's kid exposed to inappropriate material.
I don't know what they're even thinking.
Here, let me
they called us out.
Wait, Cody's got an opinion on this.
Actually, we're talking about books now, because let me get into this joy. The joy.
Hold on. Cody's been waiting to say something for a while.
Oh, go ahead, Cody. I'm sorry, we forgot about you for a second.
I mean, just the whole concept and the way they go about it, to me, really, really upsets me, because it's all about these parental rights, right? Right up until we're asking for parental responsibility. Right, be involved in your kids' lives.
Yeah,
know what your kids are doing, know where they're at, know what they're reading. Hey, even be talking to them about it, maybe. But
that's a change. Yeah,
don't be mad that you were absolutely clueless and something you didn't want to happen happened.
Exactly.
And don't make this big statement about we don't co-parent with schools and we don't co-parent with teachers, we don't co-parent with the government, and then go in and beg them to co-parent your child by making sure you know exactly what they're doing and who they are and who they're.
And let's point out, Liz is a educator and Moms for Liberty is not. They're not a group of educators. They're just a group of women who think they know what's best. And I'm a parent, and I will say this perfectly clear. Parents don't know what's best for their child's education. People go to college for stuff like that. You know what I mean? Stay out of it. If you think it's inappropriate, like everybody here is saying, bring it up through appropriate measures.
Right.
Don't send people into schools to take books out or call cops on librarians or try and set librarians up. Like, this is the stuff that we've been
just try being involved in your child's life instead of everybody.
Mind your goddamn business and just go hate somebody else. Like, leave us alone.
I think this is another example, and I'm big on this. This is a perfect example of the complete and utter abandonment of civics. Okay, in a society, parents have a responsibility to care for their children and guide them. Teachers and educators and schools have a responsibility to instill knowledge and citizenship responsibilities. But those things have to be congruent, or the public education system becomes the enemy in the eyes of people who are trying to control their kids, because that's what this is about. They want to maintain. They're scared of their kid becoming something that they can't understand or control. So they're trying to restrict it and make it be forced into their way of seeing things. But that's not how things work in a society that moves and evolves. They don't
want philosophy of avoiding information instead of learning how to take on and comprehend and work with information.
Assimilate.
Was counter to society improving.
Yep.
Technologically in any sector.
Cody, I think you summed it up when you said responsibility, and that is what seems to be lacking. So if there's subject matter that parents don't want to have those conversations with their kids,
I'm scared.
Let's make sure that those subjects aren't something that my kids are exposed to. So I don't have to have the tough conversation. I mean, mine's in college now, but all through school, he would come home with some books and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And we would go through it and I would give my spin on things. I wouldn't in a million years go and, talk to somebody about they had done something so bad to my son. You know, that's a parent's role. And unfortunately, they don't want to play that role. They want to have rules and regulations, just like you said, parenting with the government, to not have to have the tough talks. Yeah.
But then they're forcing parents like Cody to deal with stuff that he shouldn't even have to deal with. Like, they're sucking us in to something.
They're shifting the responsibility where they should be looking at their job as a parent as to help their kids understand, but also guide their understanding or their exposure and experience, you know, you can work together, but instead they don't want to do anything
and
to parent their child.
I've never understood their ultimate goal of just like dehumanizing children, traumatizing children, like forced outages. Are you serious? That's a serious thing. Like I said, both my children are gay. Like when they came out to me, I'm like, all right, cool. Like I said, I made a moment when my kids are born. I made a decision. I was going to love them for their lives, no matter what. But like trans homelessness is at all times high. Trans suicide is an issue as well. I mean, these are real issues because ignorant fucks don't want to be parents because their children didn't turn out the way they thought they were going to turn out. You know what I mean? That shit pisses me off. And
you know what, Jeremy?
That like I said, when I get angry, it flies.
But you're making the perfect segue because now we've reached the point where these people aren't okay with just talking to their kids and making sure things are the way that it should be. They're now going out and causing problems, where a school board meeting used to be a place where people wanted to know what was going on with the school and funding and when's the next bake sale. Now it's a bunch of people coming to protest basic functions of education. Right. So one thing we researched before the show is the rise of anger and disruption in school boards. So in the first wide-ranging analysis of school board unrest, ProPublica found nearly 60 incidents that led to arrests or criminal charges. Almost all were in suburban districts, and nearly every participant was white. Two examples. The mounting pressure at some meetings led to a board member cursing an attendee, a parent physically attacking another parent, and a group of protesters taking over the meeting. Almost like something that happened in Congress. Okay, wait. The other example is through confrontations at board meetings, though confrontations at board meetings escalated for different reasons, many ended with attendees being removed by police or security officers. These are the people that are attending these meetings. Critical race theory, race pimps monetizing hate. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about.
What does that even mean? Race
it doesn't mean anything.
Monetizing hate.
And we all know all lives matter. All lives matter means white lives matters just a little bit more. But this is what's happening. We've now taken, and when you have your politicians pushing this bullshit just to get votes, you now have a group of lunatics thinking that they are in the right. They are backed by some vague law of society or nature that they think is going to allow them to go to school board meetings and cause actual problems, be actual bad examples, actually set precedent that kids are going to go, I could just scream and yell and have no thought in my head, but if I do it loud enough, we'll win and we'll get what we want.
Oh my God, please go over your next slide. Your next slide.
All right. They don't get better.
That one's got me heated.
They don't get better.
Ridiculous. This one's insane. When he made this makes me angry.
It's not just the parents showing up at board meetings.
Kids are supposed to go to school. Yes, I mean, fights break out in school. That shit happens all the time. But this stuff is not supposed to happen. This is
a result of parents being shitty and teaching their kids to be shitty just like them. It's not just hate and anger in board meetings. It's that hate crimes reported in U.S. schools nearly doubled. Now, this is a significant amount of time. This is 4 years. This is your standard time to go through high school between 2018 and 22. The New York Times reports that numbers of reported hate crimes in schools and colleges nearly doubled between those years. According to data released by the FBI, about 1,300 hate crimes were reported in elementary schools, secondary schools, and colleges in 2022, up from 700 in 2018. That's an increase of about 90%, according to the report. So, who's targeted? Well, not the white kids, even though a lot of white parents think that white people are targets of things. No, it was black students that were targeted the most frequent, followed by LGBTQ, Jewish students, and according to FBI statistics. So this rage and hate from the parents is bleeding into their kids, which is now, Cody, you don't just have to worry about making sure the education and the curriculum is reasonable to not treat your kids like criminals, but now you have to worry about those people's crappy kids being an asshole to your kids who are just trying to go to learn to read a book.
On top of school shootings too. Let's not forget about that. We didn't even get into that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just too much for kids to worry about. up until they graduate high school. This is too much. Like I did not, I'm 47. I did not have to go through this shit when I was in school.
Nope.
All we had to worry about was like what crowd we were in with, sports, graduating high school, and figuring out from there. Like we did not have to deal with any of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like this is out of control. But I want to go back to the book thing because I want to play this Joy Reid clip when she's interviewing Tiffany Justice and get both Liz and Cody's take on it. I have 2 clips. I don't know if I want to play both of them, but I want to play this first one real quick.
The Washington Post took a look at about 1,000+ book challenges that were filed, and they found that they were filed nationwide by just 11 people. Each of these people brought 10 or more challenges against books in their school district. Together, these serial filers constituted 6% of all book challengers, but they were responsible for 60% of filings. In Florida, Tampa Bay Times, they found that of roughly 1,100 complaints recorded in Florida since July 2022, we're talking about more than 700 just from 2 counties. Escambia in the Western Panhandle and Clay County. Together, those are less than 3% of the public school enrollment, 600 of those complaints, 2 people. Why should 13 people get to decide what books tens of thousands of children get to read?
Well, I'm thinking it's probably because those 13 people saw what some of the content was in the books. I mean, explicit, graphic, sexual content.
What books is she referring to? Now, she keeps going back to this other book. You mentioned the book earlier, Liz, but she keeps going back to the other book, and I can't remember the name of it. We brought it up on the show before. But it's the author, it's about his personal experience, growing up in the LGBTQ community, and they keep targeting this book.
I think that's the All Boys Aren't Blue. I think that's the book.
Oh, that was the one. I told you Liz would know the name of it.
They are hot for this book. Like, they constantly talk about it. Actually, the second clip, that's what she's referring to.
Well, they're mad because they already bought all the colored stuff for their nurseries, and now what are they going to do? Have a boy?
Right, this is what I wanted to point out about the hypocrisy. Like, they try and act like there's this tough, noble movement. But Joy Reid, I think, just tears her apart perfectly. If you guys haven't seen the full interview with Joy Reid and Tiffany Justice, by all means, please watch it. Joy Reid does an amazing job of just ripping her apart. But this is a well-funded, well-organized group that's just, regardless of what scandal, like Donald Trump, regardless of what scandal was going on, they just refuse to go away. They just don't. They're just not going to leave, regardless if it's sex scandals or sex abuse scandals. Or, I mean, come on. Stealing from Target, the irony in that entire is just crazy. Like, you guys hate Target. You could have stole from any store on earth, and you steal from Target. And I can't
that was a chapter
was
chair.
So ridiculous.
Did that. Well, you know what that is? That's more of the hypocrisy. The same hypocrisy. Now, I didn't think of this on my own. I don't remember where I saw it today, but it's the same hypocrisy of the people that say they won't watch the NFL because some black guy kneeled, but now they're complaining that Taylor Swift is interrupting their football game. They're hypocrites. They don't even
let's not forget about that was the third one I forgot about, is the one that hosted a underage drinking party and punched one in the face.
Yeah, that was a doozy. Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like, family values, Christianity, like, get out of my face. You guys are just so discredited. Nobody.
Well, and that's our position. Is so many of these things are coming to light that are happening across the country, and as a whole, it seems like there are some really bad people involved in their whole movement. I won't say everyone. Some might be very well-meaning, but it's over and over again. We keep hearing these stories, right? Yep. And they do not acknowledge any of these stories. The Bridget Ziegler whole thing. They're like, oh, well, she was only a part of us for a little, a couple of months when we first started.
Charter member.
Flat out lie. She's a trainer for them, and, has been an integral part of Moms for Liberty since the get-go. Yep.
She stood with DeSantis as he signed the Don't Say Gay bill.
That's true.
Yeah.
That wasn't a part of it.
I forgot about that.
I forgot about that one.
And they just, these things keep happening over and over again. The guy that had a sex abuse charge in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, right? Oh, well, it must have been the system that was being used to vet people. I'm sorry. At the same week, it was disclosed they have over $2 million in their budgetary accounts. Right. They can't vet someone that's going to be a representative of theirs. I don't buy it.
They know what the word means.
Yeah, and then the whole issue, I think you mentioned it, with being affiliated with the Proud Boys. Their answer was to do a press release that we don't have any connection to the Proud Boys. And they think that they can do a press release, remove those two leaders down in, I guess it was Kentucky, and then they'll be done with it, right? They can detach themselves from these stories, but they can't, because it's too inbred into who and what they are. And these are the kind of people that are in Moms for Liberty.
I guess all those pictures that show them with the Moms for Liberty members with the Proud Boys, those are all AI generated. I
right, everything's AI generated now. That's their excuse. Yeah,
so they think they can make a statement and clear their name, but it's just happening too frequently.
Yeah,
and I think
smoke.
Yeah, at least one of their chapters folded because they just were like, wait a minute, this isn't what we signed up for. I can't remember which state. I want to say Pennsylvania. But it's over and over again. We've got a whole collection going on of all the harassment issues across the country being perpetrated by Moms for Liberty members. And it's like the individual stories we know about, but it is a pattern within their whole movement that this is the way that they operate. They harass people. They tell half truths. I mean, even the whole book debate is just such a flawed. The entire thing is just so flawed. They have a website where readers can go on and they can just pull up a book title and they can find the passage. They haven't even read the book, and yet they go before school boards to say,
that's
you
so
need to
funny.
remove
What you're saying
book.
is they're taking things out of context, like they always say people are doing.
They have a website.
They
have a website that they go to that's like Cliff's Notes. Actually, it's in the Joy Reid interview.
Yes, it's
And
in Joy Reid.
phrases.
And Tiffany did not tell the truth in that particular segment of that, because that website is booklooks.org, and it was developed in my county by two Moms for Liberty members. And Tiffany said, "Oh, I've heard the name." She's full of it. They prompt their membership to use that website, and that's their mode of attack.
Cody, have you experienced any harassment as a result of all your speaking out? It's amazing that we have people bothering us for us just trying to do the right thing, for crying out loud.
So, I mean, you get the occasional negative remark on TikTok or whatnot, but
we get a lot of this.
Yeah, I myself have not really got too much harassment. And I think a big part of it is we circle back to the whole dads thing, right? Because a big part of this whole conversation, the whole conservative conversation in general that we really don't talk about a lot, is that it's about patriarchy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very much about the patriarchy. The problem with LGBTQ people, the problem with trans people is that they blur gender lines, right? They take away that hard line between the patriarchy needs to exist. That line has to be there.
Without the binary, men can't be in charge.
That's exactly
right.
And so that's what a big part of the thing is about. I think it's a big block for a lot of fathers. Right, is because so much of this is attached to the patriarchy and what we've been taught is our place and our strengths and who we are, and so, but also because of that in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways it's frustrating, right? Because I get a lot of attention for being the straight cis het middle class white guy.
Yep.
Me too.
my opinion definitely counts, right?
Yeah.
And people don't challenge it. Nobody hassles me in the hallway.
Yeah.
I've had
nice being a white guy.
Take time to speak with me, right? They want to get coffee. They're on the opposite side of things. They want to get coffee and get my viewpoint. I have an upcoming meeting with a conservative member of the school board. He can get to know me better, but that's a big part of what I do, right? Is people ask me, do you feel like you're banging your head against the wall? Because I've spoken so many times, and they still pass the policies and all of these things, but at the end of the day, it's an understanding of change.
Yeah.
Change doesn't happen in a bang. Sometimes change is a rock being eroded by a river.
Yep.
This meeting that I have coming up, my opportunity to speak with this school board member and perhaps impart some knowledge to him, maybe in some sort of way, move his needle a little bit in his thought processes and his education level. That wouldn't have happened nor existed if I had stopped speaking 10 meetings ago.
You know, it's good.
True.
It's cool that you bring that up, because there is going to be a point, because I don't think this movement is going to win unless they cheat or just do something violent or something grotesque. There is going to be a point in time in the future where we're going to have to start trying to pull some of these people back onto Earth 1. I just call it Earth 2, because a lot of these people now live on a entirely different version of Earth. It's flat, by the way, which is funny, because I can't believe none of them have actually
and 6,000 years old.
I've fallen
right. So it just bothers me. And by the way, I like to point out that none of us here get paid to do this. Okay, we're doing this because we feel it's necessary. Moms for Liberty is a group that is well funded and targeted. They're purposed. They are designed for a reason. Look at Nazism. Look at Hitler. The Hitler Youth. That was what they targeted. They targeted the children.
What was it? Over 95% of German children during that time period were indoctrinated under Hitler Youth policies.
That's the whole point of them. But they're just trying to put it on the sugar-coated version. So let me play this second video.
We're just nice little moms who love our kids.
And I'm just tired of it. That's why we talk about it, because we're going to expose them. We're not going to let it happen. But
no, there's some
the
terrible
majority of America
happening in some states too that are.
Yeah, it's horrendous. It's horrendous, like Florida and Texas.
Well, Florida and is it Utah's the other one? I think both of them have something in the lines of requiring insurance to cover.
Yes.
Conversion therapy.
Yep.
And one of them has a bill, I think, specifically saying that you cannot get gender affirming therapy, mental health care at all. You can only get conversion therapy.
I read this today, and I don't have to verify this. Was it Pennsylvania that just is passing something or passed something where Medicaid is going to be approved to use for conversion therapy, something like that?
Oh
no, I mean, you know what I mean? No, they're saying it's available for people that don't have like good insurance. So people that are poor but are still trying to transition have the
not in a bad way. I'm saying in a good way. This is a possibility.
Affirming
no, I'm sorry. No,
gender affirming care.
Gender affirming therapy. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. We get
see how we,
please.
I was like,
well, comment from the record, please.
The other way that I thought they were.
I made that sound like a really horrible thing.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm so sorry about that. Gender affirming care, like people that are, don't have great insurance. People like most of the country probably get some sort of assistance. So it's good that the government is taking steps, I think, in some places to make it available. But in other states, but in other states like Texas and Utah and Florida and like other states, I can't like Arkansas. The stuff they're doing there is awful. The doctors are leaving the states because they don't want to be told they can't provide care to their patients. Teachers, all the quality teachers are leaving the states because not only do you have to worry about school shootings, because violence is typically higher. I think the top 10 red states, I think 8 out of 10 of them are for high crime and violence in their state. So they're going to lose good educators as well. So you're going to end up with a bunch of states with just a bunch of dumb, violent people that don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying?
That doesn't bother them at all, right? Because
that's what they want. That's what they want. They want dumb, violent people.
Yeah,
that's what
you
they're
just push
trying
them in
to
a direction, and the mob goes.
You just point, and they go do. They don't even ask questions or think for themselves. A bunch of dumb, angry people are exactly what they want.
Uneducated conformists is the goal.
These guys are like. I got to bring this up real quick. It has nothing to do with the topic, but like all these people talking about, we're going to the Texas border. We're going to the Texas border to defend our country. Now they actually talk themselves out of it by thinking going to the border to defend the border is an FBI setup. I'm like, you guys actually talk yourselves out of your own conspiracy.
They conspiracy
y'all are so dumb.
Out of their own conspiracy theory.
I had to laugh. I laughed so hard.
That's what they mean when they say Trump is playing 5-dimensional chess.
Right. Yes, because it's a dimension that doesn't even exist on Earth 1. All right, go back to the topic. Let me play the second Joy Reid video. we're gonna go over on time, but we're having a good conversation. So if it's okay with you guys, we're gonna be over an hour. Is that okay with you guys, Cody, Liz?
Whatever works.
I'm fine.
All right, cool. Not much longer. We'll try and keep it to like an hour and 15 minutes. But I want to play the second video because Joy Reid just gets hot, heated. Love it. And this is needed more because they don't like a lot of these networks like Fox and whatever these other idiot right-wing networks are.
My Pillow Network.
Yeah, they do these Michael Lindell TV. They do these softball interviews, and all they do is trying to make them look like they're these saviors of children. But
it's like puff piece networks.
Exactly, but this goes the opposite direction. I don't think she was ready for this.
No.
I'm going to answer your
Great.
question.
I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a conversation. Okay,
great.
So what I'm saying to you is that as you are not an expert in this book,
I don't have to be an expert to know that dildos aren't appropriate for public school. I mean, come on, let's get real.
Is a full context story.
I'm sorry, did she say dildo
experience? Why is it your right or a Moms for Liberty activist's right to say that a parent who wants their child to have access to this book, which gives a personal experience of this author, why doesn't a liberal parent, for instance, or a parent of an LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right for their child to just have access to this book? Why is it your right to say they can't?
So again, we're talking about incest, rape, and pedophilia.
And each parent, each parent has to decide what is appropriate for their child to read. So I want you to answer. I'm going to ask it one more time.
Right.
What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story? Why don't they have the right? Why don't they have the right as a parent to say, my child can have access to this book?
If a child feels seen by this story, that means that they have been the victim of a predator. That means that they have either been raped by a family member, they've experienced
and your proof of that is what?
You just said that
What's
if a child feels seen by this story. What I'm saying, Joy,
you're now making assumptions about it.
No, but if a child has been raped, we should do a lot better than put a book on the library
Now you're literally
shelf.
creating a story behind a child that you don't know.
Wait, what is she going to do? Like Governor Abbott in Texas said he's going to make sure we eliminate rape. Get the fuck out of here.
But see, that wasn't what Joy Reid was even talking about. Like, she was like, people that are being seen, like people that don't feel like they had. I mean, I'm sure coming out, I'm never going to experience it, but I'm sure it's a very isolating kind of thing. So to be able to read a book or something that you can relate to, be like, oh my God, I'm not alone. That's a big thing in life.
But that's specifically their point. They don't want their kids to relate to your gay kid because then my kid might be gay.
And she immediately is like rape, pedophilia, blah, 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 blah. She has no idea what she's talking about. And that's the book that she was talking about, Liz, the book we were just talking about previously that I forgot the name of already. Sorry, my memory.
Genderqueer one or All Boys Are Blue?
All boys are blue.
That's the one.
Yeah, all boys are blue.
Yeah.
But and she is the co-founder, right, along with Bridget Ziegler, isn't that right?
Yes, she's one of the original. She's from the county over from mine in Florida. And
she's an OGPOS.
She was a school board member, very controversial, lots of things, during her tenure. And I guess she, just didn't run the next time or something. But she and Tina Descovich, who is from my county, and Tina was defeated by Jennifer Jenkins, who it turns out is a Democrat. So Tina in my county was pretty much humiliated when she lost that position. And to be honest, I worked on Jennifer's campaign and I was a little shocked that she won. I just, thought it would never fly in this Republican county that I'm in. But there's so much about that interview with Joy, just the way that she was presenting herself. I'm not making any accusations. These are just my observations that she blinked constantly. And blinking is one of the things that, those that do this area of expertise say is sign of not telling the truth. Yep. And she had it's called a credit card hold with your hand. So it looks like you're authoritative. She had a pen in her hand, like she was in charge of that interview. And I'm so glad that you back at her over that. Because, well, number one, we're not exactly sure why Joy had her on that show. I'm glad that she did, because I think 9 times out of 10 people realized that it was kind of like a a big train wreck with the way that she was supposedly presenting her side. So our group is actually working on getting me or someone else from Stop Moms for Liberty on with Joy, so we can do the others. Yeah, do the other side of things.
Awesome.
It's real strange because we can't really like break into the big national market. And I think it's because we don't do anything that's horrific. Whereas Moms for Liberty, there's usually something pretty horrific that gets it into the national news.
Sensationalism sells.
Yes. And Mike, the money is involved and the connections. We're not connected to, a huge Republican Party like they are. And that was really their base for how they grew so quickly and so powerfully across the country. And not to, give too much of that story, but in a nutshell, the Republican Party in Florida said, oh, this is perfect. This will be the group that will do our work for us. And it will get people to come to the Republican Party, and they will be against the public school system. So all of what we're talking about, every single issue that they've brought up is really like kind of flawed logic, because what they're saying doesn't make a whole hill of beans of sense, but they're being fed a lot of information that makes them go out and spread this fear mongering, because the ultimate goal is to close down the public school system and to have it taken over by the privateers.
I've talked about this before. I don't know if you know this, Cody, but I've been following this. I've learned a lot over the last, even just a year, since I started doing podcasting and everything like that. But when the Democrats, when back in the midterms, when the one of the first bills they tried to put out, they didn't put it into a bill, I don't believe, but they wanted to. One of the things they wanted to do, and the bill was called, I can't remember exactly, but denouncing the evils of socialism or something like that. You know what I mean? And that's part of it. They don't want the government to help people. They want to make money off of everything, and that includes private schools. So if they were to get elected to office, I don't think people realize, and they think this is not hyperbole. If they get into office, they could privatize the entire school system.
Well,
they already wanted to dissolve the Department of Education, which their primary goal is to make sure everybody's treated equally. You know what I mean? Make sure discrimination is kept at bay, stuff like that. That's their whole purpose. They want to get rid of them, privatize the schools. So guess what? If your kid's poor or whatever, you may not even get an education in the future.
Right.
No, and they'll resegregate the schools, right?
Yep.
Well,
this is
a brilliant,
and 82% of private schools are religious.
Yes.
That's might have been a perfect segue into the next slide, isn't it?
Well, it's also
all part of the master plan.
I'm very glad Cody said what he said. I wish I had a memory worth anything, because I recently read something that dovetails into the fact that Cody said most private schools are religious. I didn't realize that private schools were actually started around the Jim Crow time, Reconstruction, as a method of segregation to take. So once they started bringing in
I didn't know that.
black kids into schools, the white people were like, nope, let's get out of here. And they started the private school complex and industry to be able to resegregate their own children. But now we have charter schools.
Fancy segregation. I like that.
That's a funny name. Fancy segregation.
Yeah. So, but in reality, in my mind, that's what it is. So here's just a couple of little blurbs from, I forgot what website it was, but it was basically detailing like the effect charter schools have on communities, which happens to be the title of the first one there. There is no definitive determination that charter schools are more or less successful than traditional public schools. But one thing is certain: it leaves a lasting impact on on our communities. The reason is because it siphons resources from public schools in the attempt to say that the private schools provide a better quality of education and parents have choice. But in reality, charter schools drain money away from traditional public schools. When a student leaves a neighborhood school to attend a charter school, all the public funding for that student leaves with the student, but the costs remain for the public schools. And the worst part is that it is a distinct lack of transparency and accountability. Charter schools are less transparent than public schools and often take advantage of looser regulations when it comes to accountability. Basically, a charter school is a public school where you can choose who go there, take the money from public schools, and suddenly you are resegregating Maybe not necessarily along racial divides, but certainly along ideological lines.
Well, see, since the government's it's not government-controlled public school, they could pretty much make all the rules they want.
Yep.
And
let me draw a little. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cody.
Oh, I was going to say what a lot of people really don't take into account when they're talking about all of this. They make it seem like, oh, we'll hand this check and the parent gets to choose what great private school their kid's going to go to. You could apply it as many private schools as you want, and every last one of them can say, we don't want you or your kid.
Bingo. And what's that criteria?
Oh, yeah.
What is that criteria?
Good point.
Criteria governed by any sort of, I'm going to say some scary letters, DEI? Is there any way to say that that's not exclusive, racist, bigoted? Nope.
Nope, they're not governed by those regulations. They can make that criteria whatever they want.
I'll do a little lesson, I guess, here in
please
the charter school movement. There are different kinds of charter schools. There are public charter schools that operate underneath school districts and do have all of the same requirements. Have to have, certified teachers, have to take the standardized testing, all of the things that the public school is doing. And the other side is those that kind of, go off on this tangent of no responsibility or transparency. And yes, they definitely discriminate and don't have to provide services for students that have ESE issues. And that's the piece of the charter school movement that really needs our attention, because there are some charter schools that are pretty decent because they're operating in conjunction with school districts.
But
those that are just, out there, I mean, in Florida, they just passed more, gobbledygook at Tallahassee, and a check is being sent to parents, and it's free and clear. And the parent is saying, I'm homeschooling. Well, I'm here to tell you, they're using that check to do things like buy Disney World passes. So, that's public funds. And that's where we need to really buckle down on this. When public money is involved, there needs to be full accountability, full transparency. And that's the piece that all of these folks that are trying to move towards privatization are disallowing. And they're just letting these schools pop up everywhere. And those are the stories you hear where, a school opens one week and then closes the next week. And where did all the money go? And, there's an, principal that went off with the money. And it's all that kind of crap.
It's education as predatory capitalism. I mean, let's face it. The irony of them hating socialism is that they want socialism, but they just call it capitalism. They want everyone's money for themselves. So people like a Moms for Liberty want to take public funds and use it for their means. That's why they are starting to potentially work towards charter schools where they can do what they want, push their message, groom their children. Citizens of Charleston, South Carolina are protesting a taxpayer-funded charter school whose 6-person governing board will include 3 members from the local Moms for Liberty chapter. They are obviously, as we know, an anti-LGBTQ plus organization, blah, 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 Southern Poverty Law Center. We know they suck. This is their next move because I think, like Jeremy said earlier, maybe they're not necessarily totally crashing and burning, but I think they've hit a point where the scandals are becoming too much. They're going to have to rebrand. And if they just melt into the shadows of the public school or charter school system, now we have private schools. We have Moms for Liberty charter schools. The places that a good, reasonable parent can send their kids to have a good quality education are becoming frightfully scarce if they have their way. So, Cody, you have a bunch of kids in the school system. What do you think? Liz, finish your thought first. Sorry about that.
I was just going to say that example you just showed is the laboratory example. So, as that pushes forward, we're watching it very closely. I talk to the South Carolina people all the time, and they are definitely protesting because they see the writing on the wall with that particular school. And it doesn't per se put out there that it's a religious based, but it also says it's like a classical curriculum, which is a very Christian nationalist type approach. Yeah, classical education.
Yep, they're very good at that.
Are these the same people? They think like math now is woke. I'm like, what? Talking about like how are numbers?
Well, because if one dad marries one dad, then you have 2 gay dads. And that's woke.
It's like these people are so obnoxious, but they're so confidently wrong. is I think the problem.
I
use that phrase all the time. Yeah, they're arrogant, but they're so wrong. They know they're wrong. They know they're
There's a
ignorant.
name
They
for
know they're
that.
hateful.
There's a name for that. The Dunning-Kruger effect.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a name for
syndrome
that.
where you think you are smarter than you actually are.
Oh,
that's kind of a simplistic
God, that just
definition, but
are you sure that's not the Dunning-Trump-Kruger effect?
well, it's the same. You know, he's masterful at it, right?
Yeah.
And so you get these folks that think that they do know better than other people, and there's no evidence to show that. And they get in positions of power sometimes, and that's what we have to fight against.
And like Joy Reid said, you're not an expert. She's like, well, what
I am an expert. I'm a parent. That makes me an expert in everything my kid. Are you a doctor?
Yeah.
Do you give them medicine? Do you decide what surgeries they need?
Yeah. Before I wrap this up, because I know we're gonna cut it here. It's already been, I can't believe it's been an hour and 15 minutes. We can keep going, but unfortunately we have to go. Cody, what do you got coming up here in the net? You see you got that conservative meeting. Got anything else coming up that you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so, of course, there's always the next school board meeting. But I'm actually doing a lot of events here locally and stuff in the local community with the Kalos Coalition. And we're kind of coalition building with other coalitions. I've started doing a monthly trans family dinner.
Nice.
Where we just have it's just a dinner for the community. It's just a safe place to come eat and talk about your day, what's going on in your life. Hang out with other families and trans folks, children and adults, and we shoot pool, we just kind of eat and hang out, and it's just a great, I feel like very intentionally the community's been separated from families and from these wholesome things, right? So made to be looked like there's some evil sort of thing. And there's also been a lot of trauma for a lot of people in the community when it comes to family and sitting around the dinner table. And so, we're kind of taking that back in our community. We're providing
nice.
I think it makes me feel like good things are coming out of all this nightmare that we have to deal with. We're gonna have to figure out a way to unify everybody, I guess, on the left or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? We have to put our differences aside, whatever they may be. We have to protect our future generations from fascism, from being targeted.
Well, and that's it. We have to start supporting and spreading that love with each other. Sometimes we want to get so focused on attacking somebody. Right. And even in my discussions that I have with people that greatly disagree with me, because I go out of my way to have these discussions. I've spoke with local legislatures, Republican ones that have even introduced anti-trans bills in the government. Conservative pastors in the area.
Oh boy.
And not to just attack them, but to try and bring that conversation, because in a lot of ways what I know I'm dealing with is a lack of exposure, a lack of experience.
Isolation breeds fear.
Yes. And having that conversation in an open way, because me, I'm all about love.
Right.
You can hate me all you want, but I'm still going to love you, because it's not about who you are, it's about who I'm going to be. And
don't let it change you.
When it comes to changing minds or really opening hearts, if any of those people are going to listen to me, they have to feel safe.
Fair. They can't feel like they're going into a battle.
Once somebody feels threatened, they typically
tell them to do.
Yeah, once people feel threatened, they typically
they're defending, they're closing up.
Exactly.
They have to feel safe. They have to feel safe enough to open up and actually listen. And so that's a big part of it too, is we have to lead not only in our communities and in our groups with love and loving ourselves and building that, but in our conversations that we're opening up with others, as hard as it is, often, especially, in that pain, we have to lead there too, because that's what our message is. We can't let their message corrupt ours.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today, man. I hope to have you on in the future. Keep us posted now that we have each other's, we all have each other's phone numbers now, so we're like all texting each other. I love it. So definitely keep us posted on what's going on. And like I said, I'd love to have you on in the future. So
absolutely, reach out. We'll definitely get together again.
Awesome.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. I'll shoot you a text. Okay, we'll do this again.
Good. Thank you.
Right. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Liz, you got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I was just going to say I'll be inviting Cody to do a it won't be a live stream, it'll be like a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
And
Okay, cool.
We as advocates across the country need to understand who, what, where, and when that we are actually advocating for. And there is a whole lack of knowledge in the trans issue. There is a lack of knowledge in racism. And so that's one of our main goals is we want to start putting together some of these, go-to forums and have just, the regular guy that has gone through what it's like to have a child that is trans. Yep. And, we want to have that set up. So I'll be inviting him. And I just love that Cody just seems so kind and gentle. He's very forceful at the same time, though.
Yep.
And
he's precise.
Yes. And I think it's because he comes from a place of truth. And you can, very easily shoot down someone that sounds like they're out of their mind with emotion or, that they're out of control with their thoughts and their feelings. But when you get a guy like Cody that comes along and he's like, hey, I'm living this. And hey, your world won't end. And what you're doing is wrong. And it's just he's so refreshing, and I'm so glad that we were on together tonight.
Yeah,
good.
This was a treat for us.
Absolutely. I'm sorry I kept you guys over, but thank you for coming on despite your recent surgery, and I know you're not feeling all that well, so I appreciate you being on here and talking for so long. And of course, we'll be talking to you soon again in the near future. So go get some rest. Have a good night.
Sounds good.
And I will probably text you. I text you a lot, so I'll text you.
Take it easy.
Let's talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Mike. Any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
This is a rare emotion for me, especially when we do the show. I'm going to say I'm slightly refreshed and hopeful. And the reason is, I think the biggest fear or the thing that we has to realize what led to this is actually, in my opinion, complacency. We thought we were secure. We thought we were headed in the right direction. We thought we had enough pieces in place to safeguard, and we didn't. And to see someone like Cody, who is just a dad, and we talked before the show, and he said that he's just a dad. And then what Liz said about having forums of people who are just dads, just parents, just people trying to get their kids through life without the fear that is unnecessary. There's a lot in life that's insane that you can't prepare people for kids for, but you could hope that they don't have to experience contrived problems. And that's what we have to be ready for. And it's something like a charter concept of our show. We just want to show people that we're out there, the majority is on the same side, and we really just want to get along. So I'm slightly refreshed to see that there are people like Liz and Cody who are speaking from a place of kindness and truth, and that's the message we want to get out there. So today was an absolute treat for me, and we're definitely doing this again because I just want to talk to them again about this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think my earbuds are actually dying. We've been on so long, it has heard a beep. Yep. But no, thanks everybody for joining. Today's been a really good day. We had a couple of videos that did really unexpectedly well. And we appreciate the new followers. I hope you guys know what you're getting into. Yep. But again, we're just two guys trying to do the right thing just because it's necessary. You know what I mean? And we need more people to speak out. So we're looking for guests to be on the show. If you've experienced any kind of things with your kids, if you have trans kids or gay kids, anything like that, it doesn't matter. We would like to hear from you, your personal experience, because sharing, I think, personal experience sometimes helps open eyes of people that have never been through something like that. Sharing trauma, sharing pain that some people have gone through. Hopefully create some kind of empathy bridge, I guess. I don't know. Some of these people I think are just too far gone and they're unforgivable, but
not everyone.
No, not everyone. We got to save as many as we can. We have to unite as many people as we can. And that's what we're all about on this show, just trying to bring people together. Like I said, we're just starting out, just getting warmed up. We appreciate the support so far. We do want to end on a positive note because I know this is kind of an intense episode. We didn't get to joke around too much, but recently, and I'm going to end this video and then that's the end of the show. I promise you. So this is Biden speaking. I got to bring this up because we show all the time how ridiculous gibberish, whatever that language is that Donald Trump speaks. But this is a real leader speaking, and this is who they need to vote for in this next election. So if you haven't registered to vote, it's crucial that you do, and it's crucial that you vote and be on the right side of history. So go ahead. Have a good night, everybody. And we'll be back on, what's today, Tuesday? We'll be back on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have you noticed? He's a little confused these days. He apparently can't tell the difference between Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi. Well, as commander-in-chief, I look at veterans completely differently than Donald Trump. Think about this, especially here in South Carolina, a proud military state. Donald Trump, when he was commander-in-chief, refused to visit a cemetery, U.S. cemetery outside of Paris for fallen American soldiers. And he referred to those heroes, and I quote, as suckers and losers. He actually said that. He said that. How dare he say that? How dare he talk about my son and all of us like that? Look, I call them patriots and heroes. The only loser I see is Donald Trump.